and welcome to Isms 101.
Yes, this is our online video series about everything you didn't know about isms.
We're going to be meeting on Mondays, and we got 10 topics planned. This is subject to change, but we're going to go through environmentalism, right into classism, racism, sexism, cissexism, heterosexism, ableism, sizeism, and yes, we promise those are all real words, humanism, and finally animal rights activism.
Okay, we are subject to change according to our schedules, so...
We do have lives.
Yes. So keep watching and we will let you know if anything changes. Try and join us.
So the first issue that happens with environmentalism is this overall attitude that we have as a society of helplessness, and like, how can one person really do anything to stop this?
The world is doomed. I mean, look around. Everything is going haywire. How can one person actually accomplish anything?
And so first let's talk about how reasonable that is. Corporations are the ones that are putting the big pollution in, and you can't really stop them as one person just by buying a more efficient dryer.
But if everyone does something little, in eventuality, maybe some change will actually start happening.
Yeah, we need to change this overall attitude of helplessness, because while it's completely reasonable, it's also not helpful at all, and it doesn't do anything to actually help the environment.
The first thing we're going to talk about in our topic of environmentalism is global warming. There are lots of misconceptions going around out there about global warming, and these can be harmful.
For example, the term global warming is slightly misleading and is in many ways used for the negative. Because people will use it when it's cold and say like, oh yeah, global warming. That's not how it works. Global warming is an overall raising of the Earth's temperature, but that has a lot of effects that don't all lead to a raised temperature. During the winter, it can lead to harsher snow because there's more water being evaporated in order to condense. And during the summer, it can lead to harsher hurricanes. There's a lot of effects that happens, and they're not all about being warm.
So pretty much it can lead to lots of disastrous climate change as a whole, not necessarily just warming.
The second misconception is that it's not human-made, it's a natural cycle. And while there is a natural carbon cycle, the levels that we are at right now are the highest it's ever been on Earth, and there is no doubt in any scientist's mind that it's our fault.
We cannot deny that we're contributing to this. I mean, these machines that are letting out these carbon emissions are human-made, and we have to admit to that.
Yeah, so while there is a natural carbon cycle, we have definitely set it way off balance. Let's talk about what does contribute to global warming. First of all, your car is a big contributor, obviously, but there's also many things that you probably don't know about. Your computer contributes, your TV contributes. A lot of the electronics that you use are A, really difficult to dispose of when you want to get rid of them, and B, contributing to global warming in some way.
Anything that's manufactured pretty much contributes to global warming by the way it's made and the chemicals and emissions that the companies that make it are using.
Yep, so you are contributing to global warming, and you need to accept that. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing to be contributing to global warming. I mean, obviously it is a bad thing in the long run, but everybody does it, so we need to talk about how to minimize it. Deforestation has a lot of negative effects on the environment. A, deforestation leads to less absorption of carbon because the trees in the forest are a lot of what absorbs the carbon dioxide and lets our carbon cycle be rather normal. It also really heats up the environment. Yeah. And just sort of all around is really bad for the ecosystem that exists within forests. Rainforests are already really limited, and getting rid of them is going to make it even worse.
Deforestation is also bad because it gets rid of lots of animals and people's places to live, natural habitats. There are animals that are going extinct because they have nowhere to live anymore. And there are people whose homelands are being destroyed because of deforestation.
Yep, so let's talk about why deforestation happens. There's obviously the classic example of your paper that you're using, and that is a big contributor, but one of the biggest contributors actually has nothing to do with paper and has everything to do with farming. Farmers will get rid of forests in order to get a flat land to farm on, and this is really bad not only for the environment, but bad for the farmer because the land that they get is not meant to be a farm and is really bad to farm on.
This is especially with big factory farms that will get rid of whole forests to make giant farms that only grow one thing, which is terrible for the land and terrible for the forest.
Yep, so it's not only bad for the environment, it's just bad business.
Us humans make a lot of trash. We
A
use
lot.
stuff, we throw it out, and we don't really concentrate on where it goes.
And this is made worse and worse as time goes on because the consumerism cycle is pretty vicious. You're told from the TV all the time that you need to buy more stuff. You need to buy this, you need to buy this, and you need it in order to be happy. But then it's all gonna break, and then we don't have really good ways of disposing of these things. We don't have systems in place that help us get rid of it without really doing damage.
Things are made to break. That's the reason they break so fast. This is what companies are depending on. For us to feel like we need something else, so we'll buy something else, so we'll throw it out.
Yep, and this is a problem for multiple reasons. A, because the physical space we have on this earth is limited. And we kind of need most of that for growing food and living, and we don't need most of it to be taken up by trash.
Yes, we are going to run out of places for landfills, and burning trash just leads to more carbon emissions and toxins in the air, so that's not a solution either.
Speaking of trash disposal, even if it's not burning it, is really bad for the environment. There's a lot of animals that will get into that and really get messed up. Like the ever classic example of the 6-pack of sodas and the rings that get stuck around dolphins' noses and around fishes. It's a big problem. So a lot of the activism that's happening around environmentalism is within the green movement, which is a movement that has the best intentions and kind of the worst way of going about it.
Yeah.
It's a very commercialized movement, and it's all about activism through buying things, which, as many people can tell you, never really works. A, you're buying things from companies that are making really bad things. Like they're not only making the green things, they're making very less green things and a lot of emissions, and it's very bad.
Your plastic water bottle might have a label with a little leaf on it that says it's being green because it's using less plastic than a different water bottle. But it's still a plastic water bottle, and it's still going to sit around in a landfill and not decompose for years.
Yeah. There's also a big issue with the way that green things are packaged. Like, they don't package them greenly. The most classic example I can think of this was there were these pencils that were being sold at my school that were all like a big deal because they were made with completely recycled materials, and then they were in this big plastic box. It's ridiculous, it doesn't help at all, it's just a commercialized movement because they want your money. It doesn't actually do anything. So it also leads to a really big superiority feeling. People who are involved in the green movement have a really superior attitude about it and look down at you if you're not involved in it.
These people can afford to be part of the green movement because it is so commercialized. Sometimes they have more money and they're able to buy things that are labeled as green.
Unfortunately, the green movement is not accessible to people who can't afford it. It's not accessible to poor people, and it's also not accessible to racial minorities who are generally seen as only doing things that are green because they can't afford not to. For example, someone white seen riding a bike is seen as saving the earth, but someone black is seen as just not able to afford a car.
Yeah, so it should be known that you don't have to be part of this commercialized green movement in order to focus on environmentalism.
And to be a good person.
Yes.
So welcome to the positive corner. In each video we're going to have a brief blurb about the positive things that are happening, since all these videos are about the horrible things that are happening.
Yeah, don't get too depressed.
First up, Al.
Hi! Okay, so one positive thing that's happening is that solar power is becoming cheaper. It will soon even be cheaper than coal power, which solar power is pretty much unlimited. It doesn't take anything away from the planet, and that would be nice.
The only limitation that is currently happening is the technology we have and being more efficient.
Yeah.
Also happening is that trees are adapting to how much we're fucking up the environment and are becoming more efficient at using water and not wasting it. So this has a pretty big effect on the ecosystem and is able to kind of normalize things a bit more. Things are still fucked, but a little bit less.
Yay, trees. Okay. Now, since we've been talking about all of these horrible things, here are some tips on how you can contribute some little part to making this world not so evil.
So first off, the ever classic recycling. Make sure that you are recycling things that are able to be recycled. You can even have a compost if you have the resources for it. That can help you kind of naturally have waste disposal without really ruining things.
Reuse stuff, don't throw them out if you can use them for something else.
And transportation, use public transportation if you can. If you have the money to do it.
Not bike, walk, run. When in doubt, just go for it.
And never shame someone who is engaging in a behavior that you think is not good for the environment. You don't know their situation. You don't know if they can afford to do the opposite behavior. Don't do it. It's not cool.
Yeah.
Don't buy into this green movement shit.
Nope. And just think of little things you can do. Hang out your clothes to dry instead of using the dryer. Try not to use your electronic appliances so much.
Yep. Together we really can reduce the emissions that are going on and maybe even gather resources to tackle the big corporations that are really screwing things up.
Hey, you never know.
Further reading in the description. We've gathered a lot of resources for you. All these videos are meant to be a launching point, never an ending point, so we got a lot of resources for you. Check them out.
Yeah, look. Anyway, see you next week. Hope you watch our next video, and thanks for watching this one.
Classism!